Mould has always been the silent enemy of timber. Long before it weakened beams or blackened walls, it crept invisibly into damp wood, feeding on moisture and organic sugars. Medieval builders did not know the word fungus, but they understood its effects with brutal clarity. A beam that looked sound could fail within years if mould took hold early. To prevent this, medieval craftsmen developed a preparation method used before construction even began. Timber was not merely dried and installed. It was dipped deliberately and repeatedly into a solution that altered the wood itself. This practice rarely appears in grand architectural descriptions, yet it explains why so many medieval structures survived centuries in wet climates without chemical preservatives. Medieval builders learned that mould begins before construction ever starts. Freshly cut wood contains sap, sugars, and free moisture. Medieval carpenters observed that mould and decay often began during storage, not after installation. Logs left stacked on damp ground or exposed to rain developed surface growth long before they were shaped into beams. Once mould entered the fibres, no amount of drying could fully remove it. The timber dip was introduced as a preventive step. Before beams were raised or boards were fitted, they were submerged in a liquid designed to wash out sugars, discourage fungal growth and prepare the wood for long-term exposure. This was not a finish. It was a treatment at the raw material stage. The most common dip combined water, lime and thyme. One of the most widespread medieval timber dips used lime water. Quicklime was slaked in water, creating a mildly alkaline solution. Freshly cut timbers were submerged for days or weeks, depending on thickness. This process served several purposes at once. The alkaline environment inhibited mould spores, which, really struggle to survive in high pH conditions. The soaking leached out soluble sugars that fungi rely on for early growth. At the same time, water displaced sap and equalized internal moisture, reducing stress cracking during drying. After removal, timbers were stacked to dry slowly in airflow. The result was wood that resisted mould from the inside out. For modern application, soaking raw timber in a weak lime water solution before drying can, significantly reduce mould risk, especially in humid environments. Saltwater immersion was used where lime was scarce. In coastal regions, builders used seawater as an alternative dip. Saltwater immersion had a similar effect, though through different chemistry. Salt disrupted fungal cell function and slowed microbial growth. Extended soaking also flushed sap and resin from the wood. Historical shipyards used this method extensively, not only for hull planks, but for dock timbers and pilings. While saltwater-treated wood required careful drying to avoid surface crystallization, it proved highly resistant to mould in damp conditions. So, a modern parallel can be achieved by soaking wood in a saline solution followed by thorough drying. This method, is particularly useful where lime handling is impractical. Herbal and resin additives were sometimes introduced for specific uses, actually. In certain regions, especially in monasteries and urban guild workshops, timber dips were enhanced with plant extracts. Oak bark, known for its tannins, was added to soaking vats. Tannins bind to proteins and, well, create an environment that's really quite hostile to fungi and insects. Pine resin or wood ash was, occasionally introduced in small amounts. These additives did not actually coat the wood. They altered its chemistry subtly, making it less hospitable to mould. These variations, I must say, demonstrate that medieval builders understood local conditions and adapted treatments accordingly. The core principle remained the same. Mould prevention began before the wood ever became part of a building. The dip worked because it addressed mould's needs directly. Mould requires three things: moisture, food, and time. The medieval timber dip attacked all three. Soaking flush food sources from the wood. Alkalinity or salinity disrupted fungal survival. Controlled drying removed excess moisture before installation. Modern mould treatments often attempt to kill growth after it appears. But medieval builders, well, they really focused on prevention. This is why treated timber often remained mould-free, even in those damp stone buildings where untreated wood, honestly, just failed. The drying process was, I'd say, just as important as the dip itself. After immersion, timber was never rushed into use. Beams were stacked with spacers to allow air circulation on all sides. They were protected from direct rain but exposed to wind. Drying could take, well, months. This slow drying prevented surface sealing that traps internal moisture. It also ensured that any residual alkalinity or salt remained distributed evenly through the fibres. Modern builders often skip this step, leading to internal moisture problems that no surface treatment can fix. This practice declined not because it failed, but, well, because it was slow. As construction accelerated in the early modern period, time-consuming preparation methods were, abandoned. Faster kiln drying and surface coatings replaced soaking and seasoning. While efficient, these methods often traded longevity for speed. The medieval timber dip did not disappear because it was ineffective. It disappeared because it demanded patience and planning. Where it was retained, structures lasted. For those interested in traditional building, restoration or survival construction, the lesson is clear. Begin mould prevention at the raw materials stage. So, first, use soaking to alter wood chemistry before drying. Then allow time for proper seasoning. And, avoid sealing wood before it has fully stabilized. These steps, well, they require little technology, but honestly significant discipline. They reward that discipline with durability that modern shortcuts rarely achieve. This forgotten preparation, you see, explains why medieval wood still resists decay. When medieval timbers remain sound after centuries in damp environments, it is not because they were lucky. It is because they were prepared. The timber dip was quiet, uncelebrated, and profoundly effective. If this deep dive into medieval building practice added value to your understanding of historical craftsmanship and practical preservation, subscribe to In the Beginning, share this episode with fellow history and survival enthusiasts, and help keep these proven methods alive for the future.